past.
Yes.
Occasionally, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so fact check there. But what, if anything, is there any there to this?
I'm really not seeing it, only because the tradition of Autopens has existed in every presidential administration across parties. I had an Autopen when I worked at ICE.
I'm sorry, Elliott Williams?
Elliott Williams literally had an Autopen.
You were important enough to have an Autopen. I'm so impressed.
I am important, Casey. But no, and so it's a common practice.
Did you allow people to use the name Elliott Williams without your knowledge of the document or what was on the page?
I don't recall. So
I'm asking you, if you were a government official and you had an Autopen, which you did, would you let some staffer sign things in your name without reading?
Yeah, here's the question. Was my authority delegated to that person? And I think they do have the authority to do so. Laws and and I'm serious, Scott, laws and regulations.
The authority to delegate pardons and executive orders, the President of the United States can say, you unelected staffer can go sign my name on a document that I've never seen for a decision that I've never made?
Quite often, the United States Code delegates authority. So through the President of the United States, through the Attorney General, whatever else, X person can carry out a function. And certainly that could be the case. Now, Donald Trump, for instance, in his first term, pardoned like 1,600 people. And I have a hard time believing that he was aware of every single person that he was pardoning. One could make a challenge. Every president does this. Now, if it's a question about Biden's fitness for office, did he know what he was? Of course, raise that question. But I just, one, given how vast the pardon power is, and two, given how comprehensive the use of Autopens are across administrations, I have a hard time seeing a legal challenge.
Nobody can be delegated the pardon power.
Yes.
It is a constitutional power.
Yes.
And I don't really think you can delegate the executive order power either, because the executive has to make the order.
So, Scott, the President George W. Bush, and forgive me, I'm doing some research here in real time, but we are on justice.gov, Office of Legal Counsel. Date of issuance, July 7th, 2005. So this is the Bush administration. They ask whether the president may sign a bill by directing that his signature be affixed to it. And the Justice Department says yes, the president need not personally perform the physical act of affixing his signature to a bill he approves and decides to sign in order for the bill to become law. Rather, the president may sign a bill within the meaning of Article 1, Section 7 by directing a subordinate to affix the president's signature to such a bill, for example, by Autopen.
The issue is not the use of the Autopen. The issue is the last thing you said, directing someone, the president making a decision. What Comer and the guys over at Oversight have found is that there's no clear evidence that Joe Biden personally made the decisions that only a president can make.
Well, that's a fair question, but
I want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey. Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. When you try to we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Say the biggest scandal in American history. And there's somebody that's going to jail, prison, slammer yard. Turn the lights off, slam the door. You got to put your hands behind your back. Yeah. Just can't make this up, man. They say, how did we allow this to take place in America? How did this take place? Them patriots went to sleep and woke up, and there it is.
Looks like President Biden's Autopen had a mind of its own. A House Oversight report revealing that recently uncovered documents and witness testimony indicate that even when a verbal decision was memorialized in an email, it doesn't prove that President Biden had made the decision himself. So the question keeps coming back to this. If it wasn't Biden, who was making presidential decisions? Well, it turns out Chief of Staff Jeff Zients would often give the sign-off for the Autopen after this lengthy process of telephone calls. For example, in January 2025, Zients says that Biden held a meeting with aides about pardons for his brother and other family members. Now, Zients himself was not in that meeting. Remember, that's actually important. Then Deputy Chief of Staff Bruce Reed or White House counsel Ed Siskel presumably left the meeting and told Zients staffer Rosa Poe about Biden's decision. Poe then called Zients at home to relay the message. So according to this report, Zients did not bother calling the president or anyone else in that meeting to confirm that that actually all happened. He just went on to authorize the use of the Autopen. Someone in the staff secretary's office would then convey that to somebody who would then use the Autopen for the pardons. So, look, how many times did this occur? And again, what did Biden know, if anything, about this process? And then there was the issue of his everyday life being micromanaged by his team, his clothing, his schedule, the number of steps he could walk or climb.
It's your testimony here today that you never just asked somebody, whether it was one of the senior advisors or the vice president, is the president okay?
I never had to ask that question because I saw the president on a daily basis, and I never ever thought if I never had that question.
Put that heifer in handcuffs. Put that heifer in handcuffs. I'm black and I'm queer. Put that heifer in handcuffs.
Here with more is House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer. Congressman, thanks for joining us. I mean, to the regular person watching this out there in TV land, this stinks to high heaven. So we need your gut check. You've seen all the documents. Is there any evidence indicating that Biden himself...
Come on, he finna come here and have a good little talk. Y'all know how we always do it. But when is we just want some action? When is somebody gonna be put in handcuffs? I mean, man, is it ever gonna happen? They say, Rick, it ain't never gonna happen. Nobody's gonna be held accountable for this. I mean, man, we get on Fox News and do some good talking.
Was involved in approving these pardons. Real hard evidence.
There really isn't, and it's astonishing when you're talking about thousands of pardons and dozens of executive orders. Basically, any legal document, especially during the last 3 months of the Biden administration, that's what we focused on. And every person who we deposed had a different story on what the proper process was that they followed in using the Autopen to sign a legal document. Their stories were inconsistent, and then when you throw in the emails from the Merrick Garland Department of Justice expressing concern to these very staffers about the excessive use of the Autopen and asking point-blank questions, what was their process, then the entire story's changed. So the inconsistencies are abound. But one thing that is consistent, Laura, is the fact that no one saw Joe Biden, no one who authorized the Autopen or even gave the authorization to use the Autopen, no one who authorized the Autopen or actually physically manually pressed the power button on the Autopen ever heard directly from Joe Biden. And furthermore, there are no notes. There's no chain of custody that would show that Joe Biden was involved in any meetings where they discussed the pardon process. I mean, this is appalling, and everyone in America saw during the debate and during the last few months of the Biden administration, this was a president in decline. The staffers confirmed that they would go weeks, months, and even years without communicating with Joe Biden. This is a massive cover-up, and what we determined was every pardon should be declared null and void.
Well, back to that point, I want to get into specific pardons in a moment, but that's all well and good to say they're null and void, but I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to ask you this. Mm-hmm. Is there really any legal means of challenging these pardons? I mean, I don't see any federal court that wants to get involved in what seems to be unknowable with the president's plenary pardon power. I think they're going to call it a political question and say we're not getting involved.
Well, that's why we brought Dr. O'Connor in, the White House physician, and we asked him the first question, Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about Joe Biden's health? And he pled the Fifth Amendment. We had so many questions about the mental fitness. What we found in the investigation also was the fact that President Biden's staff talked about whether or not they should give him a cognitive test. And then according to the staffers, they ultimately decided to not give him a cognitive test. Now, That makes no sense. If you wanted to prove to the skeptics in the media and the skeptics in the Republican Party that the president was mentally fit for office, why not giving a cognitive test? We wonder whether or not they gave the test and he failed, or did they decide not to give the test because they knew he would fail? Either way, there's no evidence that shows Joe Biden was an active participant in the decision-making process in any of those pardons or executive orders that were signed with the Autopen.
Are you of the view that, for instance, Biden's pardon of his brother, Jim, or let's say Anthony Fauci, are you of the view that those pardons are null and void, given what you know?
I am. Absolutely, 100%. If anyone doubts whether or not there was a cover-up, they need to watch every minute of the testimony that we got, all of the hours and hours of depositions from these staffers, where you had people like Ian Sams, who was his spokesperson, who would come out every day and give press conferences blasting me or blasting Robert Hur or Jim Jordan or someone. Under oath, when we asked him, how many times did you meet directly with Joe Biden? He said 2 times in 2 years. Neera Tanden, his executive secretary, well, 2 times in 2 years. Neera Tanden, then, who's his executive secretary, who that position is one of the closest to the president, whether it's Obama, Trump, George Bush, Obama. She admitted that she would go weeks without having any interaction with Joe Biden. They clearly shielded him, not only from the American people, but from their inner staff. If he was an active participant, there would be notes. There would be notes. The National Archives has no record of notes. There are no emails. It almost looks like they went back and changed their story from he approved it verbally and orally to, we had memos and things like that. There were so many inconsistencies. And I think that the Department of Justice can bring all these people in, especially the 3 staffers and the doctor who pled the Fifth Amendment, and press them for more information, because at the end of the day, the American people know that Joe Biden was in a mental state of decline. He hasn't given a TV interview since he left office. The statement blasting my report today wasn't from him. It was from an unnamed staffer. So
he's given speeches. But
I think that's the issue here, was the cognitive decline, the cover-up, and the unauthorized use of the Autopen.
But there has to be accountability. I know, you're trying to get the D.C. Board of Medicine to investigate that Dr. Kevin O'Connor, but is that going to do it? I mean, we've got 15 seconds. Anyone else should be investigated here?
No, I want Pam Bondi. We have handed her this investigation on a platter. We've done the heavy lifting with all the hours of depositions. We've traced the emails. We've proven there's no evidence that Joe Biden was involved in the decision-making process. She needs to bring people in, threaten accountability, threaten prosecution, get the truth from these people, and hold them accountable. We had a president of the United States who wasn't fit to serve. They tried to run him for a second term, and then they abused the Autopen during the lame duck period.
I tell you, accountability. And they said they handed Pam Bondi a platter. Pam Bondi right now is sitting drinking a sparkling water, enjoying brunch. I tell you, she enjoying. Pam, how you like your eggs, Pam? How do you like your eggs, ma'am? They say Pam sitting up enjoying brunch. Ah, hell. Oof, you just can't make this up.